The vast majority of dogs do not know how to pay attention to their owners when they are out on walks, out and about, in their day-to-day life, in their home, whatever it may be. I'm gonna be telling you how we stop the doggy ADD and build engagement with us. This is a really helpful video for the vast majority of dog owners. See you in the video. The first part of building engagement with our dog is setting the tone for example, outdoor activities, right? I am about to take Murphy here on a walk, and if he can't pay attention to me in my living room as we're walking out the door, we can't ever expect him to pay attention when we are out the door, right? It starts here in a lower distraction environment to build a little bit of engagement, and that starts with thresholds, that starts with getting him to pay attention to us. But something that owners frequently do wrong is they use, right, we have Murphy's food right here. We use his food and we just try to get his attention, right? Murphy, hey, 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 yeah, right? That's what people do. And that is the last thing we want to do. The engagement does not come first. The discouraging of certain behaviors, using a little bit of leash pressure is what comes first, showing him that, hey, he's doing something wrong. Very simple thresholds. We have not worked on thresholds with Murphy at all, but he is ready to bolt out the door. So what I'm going to do is, how do we encourage this behavior versus discourage the behavior? I'm going to show Murphy, hey, when you're paying attention to me, great things happen. When you're not, great things don't happen, but I'm not gonna tell him to pay attention to me because he doesn't know what that means. And the second something's more important, it's gonna be out the window. He's not gonna pay attention to me, so right, he's gonna learn from his actions and his behaviors on what do we do, what do we not do. And then once he starts offering the proper behaviors, that's when we pay them and reinforce them. But we don't start with that. I will show you. Nope. He's a very powerful dog for his size. He's only maybe 50 pounds, but he is very powerful. We are on the prong collar. Instead of having it just hooked up to the one D-ring, I'm going to now hook it up to both D-rings because you can tell that he is a bit more powerful. Yes, good boy, right? So I opened the door there. I'm going to reinforce this behavior of him not bolting right through it, but it's still not perfect, right? We want to build engagement here. It's a little bit of kind of nervous energy that he's doing, right? He's trying to ask for the answer to the test, and he's been taught that the answer to the test is just running and jumping into mom or dad's arms, which is not what I'm going to do because that is not the answer. Nope, Murphy. Yes, good boy, good boy. Right, so when he pays attention to me, he's a little bit nervous here. When he pays attention to me, I am reinforcing this behavior. When he's with me, that's what we want to do. And we have not worked on much obedience, so I'm not gonna ask for a ton of obedience, but when I do ask him, Murphy, sit. No. Okay. We'll test out his obedience. Murphy, sit. Nope. Right, so he's used to that being the answer to the test. Just, you can tell that that's how he's been reinforced. Again, we have not worked on this with Murphy at all. Murphy. Hey, Murphy. Yes, good boy. Right, so I added a little bit of leash pressure. He's not paying attention to me. Yes, good. I opened the door and he looked right at me, and that's when I'm going to encourage this behavior. This is exactly what we want, but I didn't start with that. I started by allowing him to make decisions on his own and reinforcing these behaviors, discouraging these behaviors. That is what we do with everything that we do. And it starts with, right? It also includes building engagement with our dog. Yes, good boy, Murphy. So this is not gonna be perfect, right? It's not gonna happen over one training session. We have a lot of time with Murphy, but this is a lot better than him, looking at the door and trying to bolt through every time the door opens up. We will now start with opening the door. Nope. What he needs to understand is just because there's a stimuli is me opening this door, just because there's a stimuli does not mean that that's more important than me now. We do this with everything that we train a dog. Yes, good boy. Good, Murphy. Yes. Good. Nope. Yes. Good, Murphy. Yes. No. Yes. Right, he's trying to figure out the answers to the test. He's new here in our board and train program, and this is inherently going to be stressful because he's never been told He's never been taught these things in his life, so learning something new is stressful, but once he understands the rules of the game, they're going to be very clear, and all of this nervous anxiety is going to be out the window because he knows what is expected of him. Yes, good boy! Good boy! Good, right? And he's looking at me a little bit more. He is a Brittany, so he is going to be a little bit on edge, right? He's going to be a little bit of a nut, and high prey drive, sniffing things, pulling, but that is a much better behavior. Murphy, come on. Some dogs, you can do this in 10 seconds and they'll understand it. Murphy, nope. Hey. Okay. We're not going to push it too hard because he doesn't know what that means yet, but good boy. Right, there is a little bit, he's not necessarily staring at me in the face, but there is a little bit more engagement inherently of him paying more attention to me. Exactly what we want. Now that we've created the calm environment before we go outside, we can now go outside in a calm manner and get to there outside. We're going to do the very similar thing once we get outside, but I'll see you guys out there. All right, so we are now outside with Murphy. We are about 20 seconds later, and Murphy, he's not fully engaged with me, but he's a lot more engaged with me than he was with his owners when they came and dropped him off. Murphy's owners actually drove down from New York City to come and drop him off for his board and train. And because we did that practice inside, he is definitely a little bit more engaged. He's not pulling on the leash, which he pulls a ton. Yes, good boy! But he's not fully engaged. So we are going to do the same thing of just building some engagement. His ADD happens because he's a Brittany. He is a very high energy, high strung dog, and he wants to sniff things. He wants to hunt. He wants to do these activities, and those are reinforcing, right? Those have more value right now than paying attention to me, the owner, the handler, the trainer, whoever it may be. Those things have more value. So what do? We either create more value in ourselves, which, right, an example of that, high value treats, and giving it to him. If he were to take them, right, that would be creating more value for me over, you know, creating more value than those other activities. But that only works to an extent, right? The second something else has more value, all of this training is out the window, right? He's never going to pay attention to us. So the other side of that is we want to make those activities have less value. And to do that, we discourage the behaviors. Using leash pressure or, right, showing him that we do not do that, making that behavior a little bit uncomfortable, right? We're not here to hurt him. We're just here to be very clear. It would be ideal if we could just say, hey, Murphy, don't do that. But he's a dog, right? That's something that you would do with a kid, but he obviously does not understand that because he's a dog. Dogs are very physical learners, so we are teaching him the way that he understands how to pay attention to us, how to, right? We are bringing the value of other activities and actions down and increasing our value inherently. Good boy! Right, so he just glanced at me. I'm gonna tell him he's doing a great job. Good boy! He's looking over there, right? There's no attention to me. Yes, good boy! So what I'm just doing here is the second he gets too distracted and he starts sniffing ahead and looking ahead, I'm giving him a little bit of leash pressure. I am decreasing the value of that item. And when he comes back to me, I am increasing the value of me to make the value of paying attention to me higher than the value of whatever else he might do. If this is making sense to you, I'd love to hear it in the comments below, because it's really important that dog owners understand this. I've heard of so many dog owners, I've worked with so many dog owners that just don't understand the activity of using some very mild corrections to discourage certain behaviors and remove value from items. So if this is making sense to you, please leave me a comment below, because that would be really helpful for me. Getting a little distracted, I'm just building, yes, good boy, good. Building a little bit engagement there. Again, decreasing the value of not paying attention to me and doing these other things, and increasing the value of him paying attention to me. Just like that, right? He was looking at me right in the eyes. It's longer than he would have looked at me if I hadn't been doing this. And he's no less happy. We are just making the rules really clear and showing him value of different items might be higher or lower than he might perceive them right now. Yes, good boy. And you see, he's a small little nub of a tail, but when I do give him a correction and he looks at me, his tail starts wagging, he gets excited. I'll play you a little bit of a slow-mo replay on that. That was a great example of, I didn't ask Murphy with a treat or something to pay attention to me. It's not what I did. I am making it exciting for him to pay attention to me and less exciting for him not to. Yes, good boy, Murphy. Right, he's already paying a lot more attention to me. This is really how you, good boy, how you remove and discourage the activity of being so ADD, right? Being ADD and being kind of a nut for these different things is an activity, and dogs do it because it inherently has value when they do it. Yes, good boy, good boy. Come on, let's go. And this is kind of the basics of loose leash walking. I have a ton of videos on loose leash walking and healing, teaching a dog these activities. But yes, good boy. All I'm doing is loose leash walking, building a little bit of engagement. When he gets distracted, I'm discouraging that behavior. And when he's paying attention to me, good boy. He saw me turn around. He didn't fully stop and come back to me, but that was a more desired behavior than what he was doing before. So I'm going to encourage that and reward that. Yes, good boy. That was a little bit of a U-turn. It was a very slow, sudden U-turn. Yes. And keep in mind, when we are using pressure in these situations, leash pressure, what we want our dog to do is feel the pressure and look at us. We don't want the pressure to be much more than that, and we also don't want it to be much less than that. Again, we are teaching them how they understand. We want proportional corrections, right? Corrections that just get his attention. We don't want to be, yes, good boy, be going overboard, but if we also don't want to be using too little leash pressure, because that's going to actually encourage him to push into the leash more because he gets used to it, he continues pushing into it. So that's why I'm a huge fan of prong collars, because if used properly, we can make it clear with that pressure. We can give him a 1 out of 10 if he needs it. We can give him a 10 out of 10 if there's a squirrel right here, right? We can communicate with him in all different levels. With a harness, we can't do any of that. We can't even communicate with him when he's like this. We also can't communicate with him in other situations that are higher distractions with slip leads. We have a little bit more pressure, but if there's a squirrel right here, a slip lead is not going to stop him, especially a very high-strung dog like this. So that is the benefit of prong collars. Yes, good boy. The danger of prong collars is if we use too much pressure in situations, well, we are going to essentially cause our dog to shut down and be scared of us, right? And that's not what we want. We don't want to scare our dog. We want to love our dog and teach them how they learn exactly what we're doing. Yes, good boy. Right, so this whole time I'm just building a little bit of engagement. This is removing his ADD. What we're gonna do now is push him a little further, right? He's doing a lot better at this. One of Murphy's issues is he likes to chew sticks, chew grass, sniff things, right? There's that ADD of just putting everything that he sees in his mouth. So it's one thing to do it on a sidewalk. It's another thing to do it in the grass. So let's practice that a little bit. Sorry to interrupt your video. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about these bad boys, Impact Dog Crates. I train a ton of dogs and I have a ton of dogs in crates. A crate should be your dog's safe space, and Impact Crates does that. They are made of high-grade aluminum, made in America. They are really easy to move around. Your crate is essentially your dog's home, so why not go a little bit above and beyond and get your dog a very nice home? At checkout, use code Ethan10 or use the link in the description below to get your Impact Crate today. Now back to your video. And this is gonna be a lot harder for him because there are a lot more scents. Yes, good boy. Right, you can see his nose just hits the ground. He starts sniffing. Yes, good. Yes, good boy. And he is not used to walking on a leash in the grass, you can tell, because the second he's in the grass, all rules are off, but he's not pulling anymore. If I stop walking, he doesn't stop quite yet. Yes. And this is a situation where we're gonna wanna use a little bit more pressure than we did on the sidewalk. This is inherently a higher distraction area. Yes, good boy. Again, just enough pressure to get our dog's attention, but that level is going to be different in all different environments and situations. Yes, good boy. Right, he's starting to get the little kind of U-turns. It's less of a U-turn and more of just kind of stopping and backing up with him still paying attention to me. Yes, good, Murphy. But right now, we are decreasing the value of him sniffing around and not paying attention to me, because right now that has more value than me. Yes, good boy. And increasing the value of this behavior, him paying attention to me. Every time he comes back and looks at me, I'm telling him good boy, I'm giving him pets, I'm giving him high value rewards. And that's another thing that, another common mistake that owners make is they just make their relationship with their dog a very transactional relationship. Yes, good boy, right? There's no transactional relationship here because I'm not just feeding him treats for doing a good job. That is, again, you're increasing the value of yourself, but the second something else has more value, like a squirrel, that's gonna be out the window. This is sturdy training with a very sturdy foundation that's going to last. Yes, good boy, Murphy. Good boy. Come on, let's go. All I'm doing, I'm not letting the leash get tight. We're building a little bit of engagement. Some practice with this is going to completely change your dog's life. It is going to completely change your dog's attention. Works 100% of the time. I have not had this not work with a dog. This works with every single dog. You just have to be consistent with it. All walks should look like this. Once our dog really starts understanding it, the engagement with us, we can remove tools like the prong collar and test to see if they're still paying attention, if the value has actually been fully decreased, or if we haven't really done it yet. If we take the prong collar off Murphy now, we just have his flat collar on, guaranteed you'd be doing the same exact thing. Takes a little bit more consistency. Some dogs, we only need it for 2 walks. Some dogs, we need it for 3 or 4 weeks, right? It all depends on the dog. But good boy! We have decreased the value of all those other items, all those activities, and increased the value of paying attention. It's obviously not perfect. We've only been out here for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but with some practice of a couple days, it shouldn't take you more than a couple days. Yes, good boy! Your dog should be paying significantly more attention to you, as Murphy is from the start of the walk. If you liked the video, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below if you found this helpful. We'll see you in the next one.